Hello and welcome to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio as the Foxes are looking to make it 9 Premier League wins in a row.
Long towards Evans at the far post. His header! It's in for 3-1! Johnny Evans, what a header!
As well as 9 wins in a row, Jamie Vardy is looking to score in his 9th league game in succession.
All the ball over the top of Jamie Vardy. He's onside. Jamie Vardy through on goal. Vardy!
It's Leicester against Norwich, and you can hear it all right here on LCFC Radio.
Indeed, he hits in. Saved by Schmeichel. Oh, what an absolute cracker from Harvey Barnes.
Your place for all the big moments. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
And Leicester City are unchanged following that 4-1 victory at Aston Villa last weekend. It means Kelechi Iheanacho starts 4 goals in 4 games for him this season. It's his first Premier League start at King Power Stadium for 12 months. He partners Jamie Vardy in attack, looking to make it 9 successive games with a goal. He's also 4 short of 100 goals in the Premier League. Kasper Schmeichel in goal, a back 4. Ricardo, Johnny Evans, Kalgart Soyuncu and Ben Chilwell. Wilfred Ndidi holding things together in midfield. Ahead of him, Dennis Pratt, Yuri Tillemans and James Maddison. Jamie Vardy and Kelechi Iheanacho up front. On the bench, Danny Ward, James Justin, Wes Morgan, Damari Gray, Mark Albrighton, Harvey Barnes and Jose Perez. 2 changes for the visitors, Norwich. They were beaten at home by Sheffield United 2-1 last Saturday. Mario Vrancic and Onel Hernandez both dropped to the bench. They're replaced by Tom Tribal and Todd Cantwell. Tim Krul is their goalkeeper. It's a back 4 of Max Aarons, Christopher Zimmerman, Ben Godfrey and Sam Byram. Alexander Tete sitting in front of a 4-man midfield of Todd Cantwell, Tom Tribal, Kenny McLean and Emiliano Buendia. Up front it's Timu Puki, and their substitutes are Ralph Farham, Jamal Lewis, Ibrahim Amadou, Mario Vrancic, Marco Stiepermann, Onel Hernandez and Dennis Shrevin.
Thank you very much, John. Yes, hello and welcome to Matchday Live here on LCFC Radio at King Power Stadium. Leicester City looking to win yet again. It's been this fantastic run that they're on at the moment. It will equal a club record if they win again today of 10 wins in a row. That stretches all the way back to 1963 in all competitions, that record. So hopefully Leicester can do it today. I'm Dan Bates. Alongside me is former Leicester City club captain Matt Elliott. Matt, you had some fantastic times here at Leicester City. You never quite went on a run like this current group are on at the moment.
No, not at all. It was, it was an exciting time back in our era. We did manage to be top of the league, believe it or not, after 8 games, but not in such a healthy position as the boys are these days. Second in the league. What is it, 16 games gone? What an achievement already. And I think there's more to come from this group of players. They're still in development mode, individually and collectively, and very exciting times here at the King Power.
Half an eye on the game that's taking place earlier on in the Premier League this afternoon. A lot of Leicester fans as well keeping a close eye on this one. It's currently Liverpool 1, Watford 0. There's 15 minutes to go at Anfield, but positive from a Leicester point of view, Watford have had a number of chances. They still are having chances in that game, so maybe they can steal a point at Anfield, but it's currently still Liverpool 1, Watford 0. And do you think the players right now, Matt, will be watching it when you're in this type of, I hesitate to say title race because of the points difference, but when Leicester were in the title race before, when you were battling with other teams that were in and around you, did you used to watch their games if it was on the same day that you were playing like this?
Yeah, you'd have a look, depending on the time difference, really, isn't it? I don't imagine they're sitting in the changing rooms at 3 minutes past 2 watching the game right now. If it had been 12:30 and Leicester playing at 5:30, then I think, yeah, by all means, why not? You not only are you keeping an eye on proceedings, you're also picking up little hints and tips prospectively for when you come up against your opposition. But no, it would be foolhardy to be focusing too much on that. Get on with your own business is obviously the way forward. Although I'm sure that most of the players will be aware of what the score is, although you'd like to think it's got no relevance in terms of how you approach the game. It's far too early in the season. It's not do or die at the moment. Leicester don't want to be too concerned about other teams. Get on with their own business, see where it takes them, which is the mantra that Brendan Rodgers puts to his players.
We're live here at King Power Stadium on LCFC Radio. Incidentally, if you were to just look at some pictures here of King Power Stadium. It looks like a brisk, lovely, warm afternoon day. The sun is shining on half the stand to our left here, but then if you look around, you see absolutely everyone in the hats, scarves, wrapped up. It's very cold today, isn't it, Matt?
It's fresh, that's for sure, but perfect weather for football, really. You know, there's a nip in the air, to say the least, but bright skies there, and you say, almost a spring-type atmosphere. The temperature belies that fact, but listen, Leicester are happy to play in any conditions, aren't they, at this moment in time? Such is their confidence.
Kasper Schmeichel's just come out for his warm-ups. The Leicester City goalkeeper, he sprinted on the pitch as well. He's now doing a few keepy-ups. Hopefully he'll be kept quiet again this afternoon, Matt, which has been really a sign all season. Kasper Schmeichel, he's kept the least he's conceded the least amount of goals, only 10 in 16 in the Premier League this season, which is quite a phenomenal record.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Really, in any context, especially when you compare it to the other teams in the league. I mean, Man City, I'm not sure of the exact figure, but nigh on City double what Leicester City have done, and they've just got this supreme sort of assurance about their play now. As a spectator, when you watch them play, you're surprised when they concede. Like last week against Villa, even when El Ghazi had the temerity to break through, hit the bar, and you thought, okay, that's your chance gone. And they did squeeze a goal, and you sense that there was an air of disbelief even from the players. They're like, hang on a minute, that shouldn't be happening. And they've got this almost inbuilt now determination not to concede, and it's a pride factor. But they've the way they approach games now, not only are they entertaining and flowing going forward, where they defensively they're so resolute and I don't know, just so impressive all round at this moment in time.
Steve Guppy was the guest. You heard him there alongside Easy Life on the pre-match pint. He was also on Matchday -2 this week, and he's been a busy man because he was also on the City commute. And speaking on that, he says he's delighted to see the form that Leicester are showing at the moment.
It really is, and I think the whole country is set up and taken notice now. Of course, that does build a bit of pressure, but once again, I think the Leicester fans have had a lot to be proud about in recent years, and looks like it's there's going to be even more in the future. I mean, this team that Brendan is turning out every week is surpassing everyone's expectations, and they're playing so well.
Surpassing expectations, Matt, I guess is a fair way of putting it this season for Leicester City. A lot of people at the beginning of the season backed them to do well, to really push that top 6, maybe not to push the top 4 or even the top 1 in the sense that they are doing this season. So they are surpassing expectations, but the fans that are in here at King Power Stadium this afternoon and that have been here and followed Leicester all season probably won't be too surprised, given the fact that the squad is so strong, the manager is so strong. It's just a really, really good time to be involved with Leicester City at the moment.
Yeah, and bit by bit, it's developing and progressing, isn't it, and coming together. But that doesn't happen just by fortune alone. There are certain elements that you can look at and say Leicester have had the rub of the green. You're talking about a couple of VAR decisions, etc., and a couple of performances where they weren't at their best, but they ground out a result, which is a sign of a good team anyway. But by and large, they've been in such good form, and the confidence is just built and developed. But there's a reason behind that. There's a lot of preparation and hard work that has gone into not just the results, but the performances as well. And it's an ongoing sort of plan, stroke approach, isn't it? And there's room for development, without a doubt. They're not getting too cocksure, too above themselves. They're just applying themselves properly, day in, day out, taking on the tasks that are set in front of them, and they're coming up with some wonderful results, some wonderful answers, aren't they? Just a joy to watch at the moment. But sometimes all the hard work can be put in, and you don't get that end result. It's frustrating. It just doesn't quite click. But this group of players, under the guidance and management of Brendan Rodgers and his staff, you have to say, has seen it's in fruition in the hard work, really.
If you missed the team news at the top of the hour, at the top of the show here on LCFC Radio's Matchday Live, then Leicester City are unchanged from that win away at Aston Villa last week. And what a win it was, 4-1 at Villa Park.
Hello, good afternoon everyone, welcome along to Villa Park. It's a relatively short journey from the East Midlands across to the West Midlands in the Premier League this afternoon as Aston Villa host Leicester City. Crack forward now to Ian Atcho, who will try and run at Mings. That would be the thing to do. Slides it forward, Vardy, in on goal, Jamie Vardy, round the goalkeeper, it's got to be, he's missed it, still Vardy, goal! Leicester City have the lead, and it just had to be, didn't it? Jamie Vardy again. Shagla Suyuncu out to the left for Chilwell. Anxiety growing among these Villa fans. Cross from the left, low it towards an in post, in for 2-0. It's touched in by Kelechi Iheanacho. 2 in 3 games for the forward, and Leicester have that second goal they craved. McGinn stepping up to it now, bends it high into the box towards Engels, who nods it back across. Leicester trying to clear it away. El Mohammadi back in again. El Ghazi in there. Ricardo gets his head to the ball. Still half a chance. Grealish drives it in, deflected. Aston Villa have a way back in this game. Maddison taking this corner from the left for Leicester. Clips it high and long towards Evans at the far post. His header. It's in for 3-1. Johnny Evans. What a header. Is a quite remarkable goal, simple in its creation, but the execution was bang on the money. And just a couple of minutes after Villa got themselves back into this one, Leicester's 2-goal lead is restored. It's Johnny Evans with a header, with his first of the season, his first since February. Villa 1, Leicester 3. All the ball over the top of Jamie Vardy. He's onside. Jamie Vardy through on goal. Vardy! That will seal it. Jamie Vardy in dreamland for Leicester City again. There is no stopping this man. There is no stopping Leicester City. They have a 4th goal at Villa Park and the home end is empty. Aston Villa 1, Leicester City 4.
Live on LCFC.com, Facebook and Twitter. You're listening to Extra Time on LCFC Radio.
Yeah, brilliant win last weekend, Matt, away at Villa Park. Leicester unchanged this afternoon. Are you surprised by that, or does that not come as a surprise to you?
No, I think Brendan Rodgers would have mulled over various options probably, and you know, the 4-1 that they've been applying more regularly has proved very effective, hasn't it? Without a doubt. You know, Leicester embarked their wonderful form in that system, but change of tack last week and it paid off, didn't it? It was almost a calculated gamble to some extent, you know, add in some areas and detract from others, but the areas that Leicester accentuated, i.e. top end of the pitch, the attacking sector, they you know, they were able to cause enough damage at the right times, often enough, you know, to warrant losing a little bit of personnel out wide. We had to suffer a little bit of pressure at times in the fullback positions, but yeah, the benefits outweighed the negative, didn't they, for sure. And looking at it today, I mean, it's been discussed already that Leicester are going to want to take the game to Norwich, be positive, be proactive, get as many bodies in and around the danger area as possible. Maddison, Iheanacho and Vardy at all times, plus others. And hopefully that the weight of pressure will take its toll.
I guess it's a positive from Leicester's point of view that they did change things up last week, yet played so comfortably. And as you said, you talked about that formation they've played all season, that I guess if you keep playing the same formation, the same team, the same players, that other teams might start to work it out and come up with a plan, but they completely changed that and looked equally as good, and potentially today we're going to see the same team again.
Yeah, no, that's right. I don't think Leicester are in danger of becoming stale or predictable, but I think you look at it, and I questioned it initially. It was slightly odd, I suppose, because you think it's tried and tested and been successful. But to have that variety is key, for those reasons that you mentioned. You need to be flexible, you need to have options. Other teams do adjust themselves to combat you, and more often than not, after a certain amount of time, they'll come up with some degree of an answer. But now they'll be left pondering and wondering what Leicester City they're going to be facing, and also for the players themselves to have that confidence and knowledge that they can adapt to whatever the circumstances and still be as equally effective is an extra reassurance for them.
But that's a good thing, I guess, that opposition players and management and staff don't know what Leicester they're going to be facing, so it must be more difficult then, I guess, to plan how to counteract them.
Yeah, exactly. It's difficult enough to prepare for just one way. If it's a team that's set in their ways, and for instance Burnley pretty much play a 4-4-2, right, this is what we've got this week, lads, this is what we've got to deal, direct football, win the first ball, etc., pick up the second. It's not as basic as that against Leicester City, is it? It's not anyway, even if they play their regular system, but now that they've got that flexibility to adapt, and you say to do the work through the week, what are you going to do? Are you going to go in depth on containing both scenarios? Leicester have probably got more up their sleeves, certainly in terms of personnel, or do you just go and back yourself? So it makes the job of the opposition manager that little bit more difficult, for sure.
Just a reminder of some of the stats surrounding the game today, that if Leicester do beat Norwich here at King Power Stadium, they will equal an all-time club record sequence of winning 10 successive games in all competitions, 9 in the Premier League, of course, and that one Carabao Cup win at Burton. This was last achieved by Leicester in the 1962-63 season, and they'll also equal a record of achieving 9 consecutive league wins, which was achieved not too long ago in the 2013-14 season in the Championship, of course. But to do that in the Premier League, Matt, it would be such an incredible achievement.
Certainly is, yeah. The profile of the Premier League or any top division in any era is an incredible feat, yeah, as you say, and especially for a club like Leicester City, where traditionally Leicester have been a team that scrap and fight a little bit with a little sprinkling of quality maybe through the years. They have to battle for everything that comes their way, even in the Premier League winning season, which was still an unbelievable and bordering on ridiculous achievement. But it was brought on grit, as well as I say, with that sprinkle of individual flair, wasn't it? The grit and determination was probably the words that you associate with that season, but there's style and elegance about this team, isn't there? And to perform how they have, as well as picking up the results, the perfect combination, and it's wonderful to see, and as I say, long may it continue.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news though from Anfield. Liverpool have got a second. Mohamed Salah has got his second in that one, as they've just headed into to stoppage time, to injury time in that one. It's Liverpool 2, Watford 0. Let's go back to Leicester City, of course, and this current Leicester team, because Yuri Tielemans has been looking forward to this game and the prospect of hearing his song sung by the fans yet again.
Premier League, what it's like, every game is different, every game is difficult, so we'll be all about us. We play at home and we'll try to win. We'll try to do our best to win, to make the fans enjoy the game, and to try to win it as well.
You mentioned the fans there. Are you looking forward to hearing your song again?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it every game, because it's such a good song. And the other day I was looking at the TV and I heard the song, but the real song. So it was strange to hear the real one, but it's very nice to hear it in the stadium.
Immensely popular, Yuri Tielemans, Matt, isn't he? Amongst the squad members, amongst the management, amongst us, and most importantly amongst the fans there. And he's talking about the song that has been created for him, the Starman song in midfield, and what an unbelievable player he is, and a fantastic signing for this football club.
It's a great signing, that's for sure, and as you say, very popular, rightly so. Carries himself very well on and off the pitch. Mature head on young shoulders, for sure, a phrase that's often been attached to Yuri. But he's come on, he's been a big influence, hasn't he? He helps run and organise and manage things out there on the pitch as well, which is very impressive for someone of his age. I still think there's more to come from him in terms of influence out there when he's on the ball. We've seen patches of it, and we've seen instances of it. I think he has that capability to go out there and run the show. But the problem is, I suppose, you've got many other players that like to dictate play as well, James Maddison being one of them. But they complement each other superbly, don't they? They're playing in the roles that he does. It suits him down to the ground. He can get forward and contribute in the opposition penalty box as well as in the midfield area. But I haven't quite heard the song as of yet.
I'm not going to sing it.
I may have in the distance and not quite picked it up, but I'm aware of what one it is. I'll keep an ear out for it this afternoon.
As we heard from Steve Guppy earlier, he was speaking on the City commute. You can listen to that anytime you want on lcfc.com/radio and from all your good podcast providers as well. But he also, during that episode of the City commute, spoke about Youri Tielemans in detail and about the way that he picks the ball up in midfield, the way he finds positions for himself and finds space on the pitch. He was hugely impressed with that.
Yeah, and that's part of the role that he's been given. It allows him to do that. And Maddison, Dennis Pratt will be playing in that role today, although he does have more of a defensive side to his game. He still ventures forward. But they have that licence, or Tielemans does and Maddison, to pick up those areas in between the midfield and defence of the opposition and venture forward without risking leaving open space in the defensive aspect of the game, because Wilfred Ndidi is so adept at sweeping round, reading the game and covering and using his athletic ability and tenacity. So, it's a nice luxury to have as a midfielder. If you're just in there as a part of a two, then more often than not,
your mind's on other things.
One go, one stay. Yeah, sit. You're not going to get two. But him and Maddison are able to venture forward consistently, pick up those little areas. It is clever movement, but it's because indeed he allows them to go and do that.
So is he... Jamie Vardy has obviously famously scored this 8 games in a row, hoping to make it 9. So maybe this is a stupid question, but is Wilfred Ndidi the most important player in this Leicester team?
I mean, it's so difficult to pick out. You could go right the way through the team at the moment, couldn't you? I think he's hugely important for sure in terms of the role he plays. Again, we go back to that term, but being in the position of the pitch where he is an integral part of everything, isn't it? Without him functioning properly, a lot of the other facets of the game that Leicester have are not produced, because you're not getting into certain areas or you're not defending effectively. He helps out all departments of the game, doesn't he, of Leicester's play, both defensively and offensively. And that's not to say he's the most talented individual out there, but he's a huge factor for Leicester's play. Yeah, but listen, you start picking out individuals, you'll be here all day long, won't you? All the way through from Casper through to Jamie Vardy.
Well, those players from Casper through to Jamie Vardy are just coming out onto the pitch here at King Power Stadium for their warm-ups this afternoon ahead of their game in the Premier League with Norwich City. The Norwich players as well are just out there warming up in front of us here. A good number of Norwich fans actually already inside King Power Stadium here. Good following from them, but obviously we're concentrating on Leicester, Matt. I mentioned it just a second ago there. Jamie Vardy, chance to score for the 9th consecutive Premier League game for the 2nd time in his career, which is, again, unbelievable.
Yeah, exactly. You look at it and you think, some of the great centre forwards that have been in the Premier League through the decades, and you would think that more of them would have got closer to Jamie's record at times, wouldn't you? But that just shows you, what an unbelievable achievement it is, and the fact that Jamie's reached 8 in 8 twice on 2 occasions. I think there's only that Van Nistelrooy record that Jamie surpassed is above Jamie's current record, isn't it? If that makes sense. The likes of Henry's and Shearer's and Hasselbanks, whoever you want to pick out, they haven't even got to the... I think there's a couple of people on the 8 as well, aren't there, that have got through. But he's the only player by a distance who's got anywhere near a long sequence of goal-scoring runs, and twice. Obviously holds the record. Would you back against him breaking it? That's a braver man than me, probably.
It's a bit different to compare, obviously, what you did with Jamie Vardy in terms of a defensive point of view, and being on such a great run of form, because if you kept a clean sheet for a number of games in a row, it was more about the team. It wasn't just you as an individual, whereas that is an individual record that Jamie is hunting and hunting and hunting.
Well, it is, as much as any record or achievement, I suppose, in football can be. You know, that he's not scoring the goals without his teammates, is he? I'm sure he'll be quick to recognise, but a couple of those goals have been penalties, which have been quite handy to pick up along the way in terms of timing and his record, of course. But that's not to detract from any praise that Jamie Vardy should receive for getting the goals he does. You know, he's an unbelievable predator, isn't he? Could have picked up a fair few more goals if he's 100% honest, but such a threat that he is, even when he doesn't feature in a game too regularly, he always manages to carve out either himself or some good play from his teammates, 2 or 3 golden chances, doesn't he? And he's, more often than not, he's pretty clinical. So, you know, he's a special player, that's for sure.
Yeah, he must be fantastic to play behind as well, which is exactly what Yuri Tielemans does, and he underlined just how good he is and the importance of the number 9 in this Leicester City side.
I think I've said it many times, but Jamie is a great striker to play with. He's a guy who just wants to score goals and run forward. So for me, it's pretty easy, and I just have to drop the ball where he runs, and then he just finishes it. So I think it's pretty easy to play with him. He's very smart as well, very clever in his runs, and defensively he's very important for the team. He always presses the defense. So yeah, it's very easy to play with him. He's a great guy as well. So yeah, very good for the team.
What do you think he is like? We got a little bit of an insight there from Yuri Tielemans about what it's like to play behind Jamie Vardy, but I guess it's a player like that if you're in trouble on the pitch somewhere and you need to release the ball and either, rather than putting it out of play, you know that if you just put it in a channel, Jamie Vardy will chase it invariably, either make the defender make a mistake or make the defender put it out of play or get on the end of it himself.
Yeah, it's a nice luxury to have, that's for sure. You know, an extra string to your bow when you're not just in those situations, but as you mentioned there, when you're under a little bit of pressure collectively, or someone's closing you down, or you want a little bit of respite, to clip it into an area, something that's not utilised often enough, I don't think. Leicester City are not scared of doing that, just put it into an area down the channel.
Well, you think of the Bournemouth chip here, it came from nowhere, didn't it? Ben Chilwell had it right in the left back position, didn't he? And he just sent one forward and long. It was a perfect pass in the end, and Jamie Vardy got on the end of it, chipped the keeper.
Well, goals like that, I mean, that was better than just a hopeful clearance, wasn't it, by Chilwell? There was precision on that. It wasn't just a clump up field, but I can't name another striker in the Premier League. Son springs to mind, possibly. Maybe Salah. Well, they're rattling off a bit now, aren't they? Mane, right? But how many other strikers are scoring in that position on their own? Long pass over the top, and the way he finished that at pace, to have the balance and poise that he executed there was special finish, and not probably given enough recognition from outside quarters. But I mean, to have that facility and it's a constant threat for the defenders as well. They can never switch off. It also, makes them drop deeper, which in turn, if they're doing their job correctly, which in turn creates space in front of them for the likes of Maddison and Perez, etc., to go and creep into. So it's a wonderful weapon to have, Jamie Vardy there. Defenders can never rest, can they? And on top of that, he's clinical with his finishing as well.
Well, hopefully, Matt, you'll be talking about Jamie Vardy scoring yet again on extra time on Monday evening on LCFC Radio. He is, of course, in the starting 11 for Leicester City today. So let's get a reminder of the rest of the team with our commentator, John Dunn.
very straightforward for the Foxes, unchanged following the 4-1 victory last weekend at Aston Villa. Kelechi Iheanacho, Dennis Pratt, they remain in the side. James Maddison comes up against his former club. Schmeichel then in goal, back four, Ricardo Evans, Soyuncu and Chilwell. A midfield of Ndidi, Pratt, Tillemans, Maddison just behind Vardy and Iheanacho. On the bench, it's Ward, Justin, Morgan, Gray, Albrighton, Barnes and Perez. Two changes for the visitors. Norwich defeated at Carrow Road last Saturday. 2-1 against Sheffield United. Mario Vrancic and Onel Hernandez dropped to the bench, replaced by Tom Trybull and Todd Cantwell. Krul is the goalkeeper. The defence is Aarons, Zimmerman, Godfrey and Byram. Tete sits in front of the back four. Ahead of him it's Cantwell, Trybull, McLean and Wandea. Up front is Pukki. And on the bench, Farham, Lewis, Amadou, Vrancic, Stiepermann, Hernandez and Srebeni.
Thank you very much, John. Just under half an hour to go now until kick-off here at King Power Stadium for the Premier League clash between Norwich and Leicester City. Still to come on Matchday Live, we'll hear from Brendan Rodgers, Daniel Farker, and also take a closer look at Norwich City.
You're listening to LCFC Radio.
Boris Johnson's meeting some of his new Tory MPs today after they were elected in areas previously held by Labour in the north of England. The Prime Minister secured an 80-seat majority in Thursday's general election. Meanwhile, some Labour MPs have criticised Jeremy Corbyn after he blamed Brexit for his party's worst results since 1935. He has said he'll stand down, but Neil Coyles claimed on Twitter that it's a shameless insult to voters that Mr Corbyn hasn't quit now. Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell has dismissed claims it was Mr Corbyn himself that was to blame and not Brexit.
I don't believe that. The overwhelming issue was Brexit, that's the first thing. And the Labour Party were caught on the horns of a dilemma. We had a party, and I'm an example of that. We had a party which was largely supportive of Remain, but many of us represented Leave constituencies.
Two women have been seriously hurt in a double stabbing in Greater Manchester. Police were called to Hindley around 10:30 this morning. Both victims were taken to hospital. Police in New Zealand have confirmed another person's died following Monday's volcanic eruption on White Island. The death brings the total number confirmed so far to 15. Divers have spent the day searching contaminated waters for two more people who are missing. And the finals of the Miss World competition take place in London tonight. 23-year-old Basham Mukherjee made history as the first British Asian to be chosen to represent England. That's the latest. I'm Anna Bates.
The only place you can listen to every Leicester City match online. This is LCFC Radio.
Welcome back to LCFC Radio here with me, Dan Bates. Matt Elliott sat alongside me now, making some notes about Norwich City as we speak, and he's just looking at the Premier League table to see where Norwich are. And it doesn't make great reading, does it, for the Canaries and those travelling fans, Matt? But they have shown a number of times this season that they can go up against the big boys and perform really, really well.
Yeah, that's where they can take a little bit of encouragement, can't they? Their games earlier in the season, Arsenal recently, they put up a good performance, didn't they? Got themselves a draw. Unfortunate not to get the win. Obviously, the game against Man City, reasonably closely contested game against Chelsea. But all those games were at home, mind you. They do seem a little bit frail defensively, don't they? They got taught a lesson, didn't they, in the opening day of the season against Liverpool, where they started very brightly, played some good football, could have scored goals themselves. But when it mattered, they were just a little bit soft-centred and got a bit of a walloping. So you'd feared from them from the first day. But they'll have high points. You know, they already have. And when it clicks, they're a very attractive sight to watch. Obviously, Pukki up top is a goal threat for them. Can they get enough support in and around him, particularly away from home, which is questionable? And are they resilient enough for long enough? You know, defensively, they're not a side that sort of battens down the hatches, are they? They like to play their football, which is where you would think is the most obvious area that Leicester will expose them. Leicester, that pack of hounds that they've got, will cause them multiple problems, you feel, as well as breaking them down with good football itself. But I don't know, perhaps I'm doing Norwich a little bit of disservice, how much I fancy Leicester today, but I can't help but feel that way over recent form. I think it's justified, but they've been a breath of fresh air. They've been good to watch, Norwich. at times. They're always quite entertaining games, but from their behalf, more often than not, it's been for the wrong reasons.
Well, one man who watches them week in, week out is Michael Bailey, the Norwich City correspondent for The Athletic, and he says that Norwich can raise their game against the big sides.
It's a huge game on both ends of the table. I think Norwich at this point are really hard to read because they can do very well against very good teams, and they've proven that. The thing about this game, Leicester are in such good form, they've been so consistent. They also don't give a lot away. I think this will be a really stern test for Norwich. Probably a much harder one than Manchester City coming to Carrow Road and Arsenal and those sort of things. So this is probably about as tough as it's been since the opening night up at Liverpool. So Norwich can turn it on, but they clearly have weaknesses, and teams around them have been able to exploit those. So I'd be lying if I said I wasn't slightly concerned that a really good team might take them apart. But Norwich have offered a lot of hope, and they have got a lot of quality in some really good areas. So part of me is it'll be really fascinating to see how they deal with the challenge. Probably no surprises in terms of Teemu Pukki, because I think he's a striker who's proven it over probably a couple of years now in terms of his movement, his finishing abilities, his temperament. He's as good as any striker competing in top level football, really, because he's proven that. And in a better side, I'd be convinced he would score lots of goals. The players around him are still adjusting to a higher level. Him and Todd Cantwell's connection all season has been really impressive, and that's almost come from nowhere because they didn't get much chance to combine last season. It'll be interesting if Todd starts today. So they're good, I think. And I think Tim Krul has been in really good form. It's been good to see him back to his best over much of the season. Other than that, it's hard to point it out because I think some players have stepped up in some games and then found themselves wanting in others. But if Norwich can get the ball to Teemu Pukki in the right areas, then he has enough about him to win any game of football.
Hi Leicester fans, it's Ricardo Pereira.
It's Kasper Schmeichel here.
I'm Jamie Vardy. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
He pretty much echoed exactly what you said, Matt Elliott, didn't he? About Norwich and about how those games against Man City and against Arsenal, against Chelsea were at Carrow Road. This is away from home, probably the hardest game since the opening day up at Anfield. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach it as a team and as players, because, as you said, they're very expansive, they're very good to watch, aren't they? But when they come into a place like this against a team that are flying like Leicester are, do they try and change things, or do they come and play the way that they have been playing?
Well, I haven't seen enough of them regularly enough, but the criticism was levelled at Daniel Farke that he was unwilling to change at all about the way that Norwich go about their game, because as Jerry Taggart just turned up on the screen all the way from good old Miami of all places, him swanning around in his t-shirt, if only. But he's going to be sending me off track here, Dan. Sorry, mate. But they need to tailor it a little bit, don't they? Like Leicester City have. They've got both sides of the game off to a tee at the moment, haven't they? But they equal focus on defence as well as attack, in and out of possession, etc. It's naive, well, it's not amateurish. I don't want to level amateurish at a Premier League coach, but it's naive to think that you can go through the season without adapting your play a little bit, at least. Still have that attacking emphasis, but eats away at the confidence of the players. That's what I'm interested in looking at Norwich. They'll probably start reasonably brightly, trying to play their football. But if they get penetrated or dominated for any sort of period of time or concede a goal, then how do they react? And their heads go down because they haven't got that genuine belief in themselves about the way they're going about their game, and how they're applying themselves, losing faith a little bit. But we'll have to see how the game maps out. But it's a risky gamble, isn't it, that's not paying off at the moment.
Yeah, if you want to watch more of Jerry Taggart in Miami, then you can do.
I missed that. I wanted to hear what he said.
Then you can do on...
Just had a bit of silence.
On lcfc.com and on social media. You can follow them. They're doing their Premier League mornings live in America, in Miami, on Miami Beach. in a shorts and t-shirt.
I went to New York last year, freezing cold, -10, wrapped up in his scarf and woolly hat. Tags is out there strutting his stuff with the suntan cream on, eh? It's all right for some, isn't it?
And you're here, yeah, absolutely freezing at King Power Stadium. We're just having a look now, though, at the Norwich results from this season. Obviously, the 3 wins they've got was home to Newcastle, home to Man City, then away from home at Everton, and then they've had a couple of draws as well, away at Bournemouth and at home to Arsenal as well. But importantly, most of those results that they are getting, they're getting at Carrow Road.
Yeah, that was another thing I wanted to touch on, really. There, I mean, like most teams, the home form is better than the away. More often not, that's the case. We're just watching Campbell here. Good ability, showing great ability there in a little possession session that they're doing. But as a manager, I'd want to be questioning. It's like saying they're getting up for it against the big teams, but they should be up for every game, as should any team in the Premier League. But in particular, Norwich. I mean, they must be excited and buzzing every week that they're competing at this level against the teams they are. And surely, I don't know, for example, an Everton away is just as big a challenge, and you should be as up for it as you are the prospects of Man City coming to visit you. So that's a concern in terms of the mental approach, because they've proven that they have the technical capabilities on any given day, but provide that consistency, which is about how you apply yourself. They haven't been able to do that, and that's a worrying trait to have.
You pointed out Todd Cantwell there in the warm-up. He was also pointed out by Michael in our opposition view today that he's clearly a very good player. He's only 21 years old. He almost makes Norwich tick, doesn't he, in that midfield?
Well, he's Maddison-esque, isn't he, a little bit, in terms of he's got the blonde locks, etc. Hasn't he? He's got a little bit of swagger, a little bit of a strut, but he backs it up with his ability. And I really like him. He's been a huge bright spot for Norwich, hasn't he? Coming up, contributed a couple of goals. Unlucky not to have a few more, a few assists into the bargain as well. Talented player, expresses himself. Probably typifies Norwich a little bit. I might be being a bit harsh, but perhaps the defensive aspect of his game you can maybe look at a little bit more and try and address that. But without doubt, he's been a huge positive for Norwich.
Well, let's hear from his manager then, Daniel Farke, who says that bouncing back from the 2-1 defeat at home to Sheffield United last weekend is vitally important.
We were good in, for example, in the first half, or of course also the topics we should improve, and we were not on our top level in the second half, and we spoke about this, and it's always the same. So it's always like a win, and the good results always good for the mood, and then when it's a bit a loss, it's always a bit drying. And of course, 1 or 2 days we were a bit disappointed, a bit down, but then after that, so I would say since Wednesday we're totally focused in order to be prepared for the next really unbelievably difficult task against Leicester City.
I guess that probably is the most frustrating thing for Daniel Farke, Matt, and for Norwich fans themselves this season is the inconsistency that they have shown. Last weekend he was referencing against Sheffield United, they were brilliant in that first half, but then in the second half they just didn't do things right at all, and Sheffield United, a team that were also promoted with them, seemed to show more Premier League experience and more Premier League guile, and knew how to see out the win, knew how to get the 3 points in that game.
Yeah, without a doubt. Sheffield United are a perfect example, really, aren't they, of what a promoted team is striving to do. Again, they've got both sides of the coin, though. They don't accentuate one aspect more than the other. They're both equally as important, and you see that in their performances. They can grind out results, which Norwich don't tend to do. Norwich, if they're playing well and they hit their straps, they hurt the opposition, then they give themselves a chance. But if it doesn't happen through attractive football, then are they capable of digging in deep and, as I say, grinding out results? The answer to that is certainly not regularly enough. No.
How does that change, though? How does Daniel Farke go about it?
Well, that's what I mean. You need to look at it. Chris Wilder has done an amazing job, hasn't he? He's addressed different areas of Sheffield United's play, and that they do play with an intelligence, don't they, and a nous that belies their their level of experience, really. Norwich have come in and played pretty much to type, haven't they? You know, they're wonderful attacking football, and you know, rightfully got promoted last season. You know, with some excellent football, etc. But you felt they needed to adapt the game, but they just carried on regardless. And up to this point, they've paid the consequences. So, you know, you need to look at it. And of the two, who's done the better job? You know, Chris Wilder, without a doubt, at the moment, with a bunch of players that he's got. And you just can't carry on playing a certain way and the same results coming. But they'll be buoyed by that result against Arsenal. As you said, they've beaten Everton not so long ago. 3-4 games ago, wasn't it? So the potential is there. That's an away victory for them, so they can take solace from the odd performance, but consistency and mental approach. I mean, I don't know, mistakes, key points. Is that down to lack of quality or lack of concentration? You know, the manager will know more than actually see them deep down every day, and he'll know deep down what the answer is. Injuries have been a blight for them as well, so they can look at that as well and take confidence from the fact that maybe a couple of lads are coming back. But they need to tighten up and be more, what's the word, not professional, but be more thorough. Just realise that they're Premier League players. They're not here, you know, having a dalliance or a vacation. They're here and should be setting their minds here to stay. And at the moment, that's questionable.
They've just run over the Norwich players to their fans in the corner, who are already making a good noise inside King Power Stadium. Lots of them travelling up to Leicester today. The Leicester players have already gone down the tunnel into the dressing room for their final words from Brendan Rodgers. So we'll hear as well from Brendan Rodgers then. He was asked in the week what he's been telling the group before each game during this winning run.
Just win our next game. That's always been our mantra. Just never look too far ahead. I think I've said all along that, you know, it's very difficult to forecast in football. All you can do is ever bring your best game into the next game, and we'll need that against Norwich. You know, Norwich are, of course, sitting in the end of the table they wouldn't want to be, but they've got some very talented young players. They've had some, you know, very good results against Manchester City and Everton this season. So they've shown that they can win. So, you know, so we have to prepare for them and a tough game. But it's just focus on the next game. That's always the key. And when you do that, you never get too carried away.
That's the key message, isn't it, Matt? And it's the message that we've heard all season, really, isn't it, from Brendan Rodgers, particularly during this winning run and during the games that were going Leicester's way, that he says, yeah, we're not getting carried away. They have to take each game as it comes, and he keeps reiterating it, and clearly the players are listening because they're continuing to win. But how important is that message? Because it must be difficult to ignore the facts and ignore the fact that you can go 9 points clear of third place in the Premier League if you win today. It must be impossible to ignore that as a player. What Brendan Rodgers is trying to get the players to ignore that and just say, you've got Norwich City in the Premier League today.
Yeah, well, I think you can sort of compartmentalise it, can't you, a little bit? Because in one sense, you focus on the here and now, or the everyday in training first and foremost, and then the big game day, whenever it is, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever the opposition are, they're all equally as important. 3 points are at stake. Alongside that, you're aware of your situation in the league. Of course you are. You can't totally banish that thought, but you don't let it take over precedence. And at the end of the day, prepare yourself properly for each game, and as Brendan says, see where that takes you. You know, you can assess it and reflect afterwards, can't you? And you know, and look at the situation. But it's no point reflecting on a defeat. So, you know, they've got to be professional about it. They've got to be thorough in the way they go about the games, and, you know, pride themselves. And if they do that correctly, they know they've got every chance of winning. And, you know, it's I think sorry, there's a Birch out on the pitch now. It's all happening. Tags earlier, Birch there, talking about different things, talking about the possible European tour maybe. But I think at the same time, although Brendan plays it down, I think Claudio did it very well. Claudio Ranieri in the title winning season, he was aware of how it was developing. And I think that's the one thing that Claudio Ranieri did superbly. He played it down, kept it under wraps. But when push came to shove and you couldn't deny it, that Leicester were in with a shout with the league, he went, OK, let's go for it now. And the players got that message. And I think Brendan's not yet, but he's waiting to do that. I think as well as saying to the lads, OK, every game, see where it takes us, apply ourselves, let's be the best we can. He's also, I think he's given them little targets, maybe not officially, but instilling into them that attitude where they've got a belief and they know that they're capable of something, and they are capable without a doubt of finishing in the top four, and give them that little confidence and bit of touch of arrogance, because Leicester are not meant to be competing with Liverpool and Man City, but they are. And then you have to genuinely start believing it. I think Leicester are just about doing that now.
No changes for Leicester City from their starting 11 against Aston Villa last weekend, which saw a change in shape for Leicester. And Brendan Rodgers has been saying that he's delighted with the flexibility in the squad at the moment.
It shows you the football intelligence that's in the squad. We used a different system last week. We used it in pre-season, had a look at some of the principles within it. We used it part way through the game against Tottenham. Other than that, we've not had to, I feel, use it. So, but the players were fantastic in terms of defensively how they were able to organise the game, and then with the ball we were very creative and bright and full of energy. So yeah, it's something that I said when I came in. That flexibility is important. How we play and the style will always remain the same, but systems can change, and it won't fail.
Quite difficult to hear Brendan Rodgers there, wasn't it, because of the PA here inside King Power Stadium, very loud, but you can see the atmosphere already getting louder inside King Power Stadium, and we're watching the big montages on the screens as well, Matt, and a little wry smile from yourself when you saw your Wembley header there.
Yeah, it still makes me giggle actually. I look at that, and you see it every home game, they put it on, don't they? And wonderful job they've done as well, haven't they, with the video montage through the years, different moments. Marriage, Walshy, myself lifting the trophy, and in the more modern day, winning the championship, and with the fox always lurking in the background. It's pretty stirring stuff, to be fair. It was brilliantly done, and it sets the scene for the big match that's lurking ahead.
And it is a big game, isn't it? Second in the Premier League, plays second bottom in the Premier League. It's by no means a given that it will be 3 points to the team near the top of the Premier League, but Leicester will be looking at this today thinking that chance to extend that gap over Man City, to extend, more importantly, the gap over fifth place Manchester United. It's such an opportunity for Leicester that they need to grab today, you feel?
Yeah, they need to be ruthless themselves, don't they, and block as many external issues as they can out of it and concentrate on the performance, and again assess it afterwards. But we've just seen not so long ago, haven't we, Watford have put up a very good fight against the leaders, potential champions Liverpool, run them really close. OK, ultimately fell short, but they were in that match from start to finish, and Norwich can take heart from that. And as I said, I sort of dismissed Norwich's chances, maybe at my peril, but the atmosphere is hot enough here, they're ready for the players to come out and see the end of that montage. But I think it's the Premier League, things can happen. Of course they can. Leicester have been imperious of late, and I expect the good run they've had to continue.
Kuntop is here, incidentally. We've just seen him on the screens in front of us. He's down to the right-hand side, stood up, just assessing, just looking out at this King Power Stadium crowd, and what a fantastic moment it'll be if Leicester can continue this winning run this season and achieve what they're hoping to achieve this season for Kuntop.
Well, of course, that's the intention, isn't it? Easier said than done. But at the moment, you look at any proposition in front of Leicester City and you think, why not? The Norwich, obviously the opponents today, Man City lurking in the background. Beyond that, of course, is Liverpool on Boxing Day. But what an enticing run of fixtures that is, isn't it? Leicester, if they need any inspiration, which I'm sure they don't, to extend their, the professionalism and the manner of their performances, it's see it through today, then go up against, the real stiff challenge. But what a statement that would be if they were to come up against Man City next week in a similar position, or even extended their lead, and then go and hammer home that advantage with an away win at the Etihad, as they've done before. It's not unachievable. And then Boxing Day, wow, I daren't even think about it just yet.
Kasper Schmeichel is in the tunnel preparing to lead out his Leicester City 11 this afternoon. He's just embraced with Tim Krul. Alexander Tettey, the Norwich captain, is also preparing to lead his team out here at King Power Stadium this afternoon. A reminder, if you are listening in on social media, you'll have to head to the website to listen to the full game for free. But it is now time to hand you over to your commentary team of Matt Elliott and John Dunn.
Maddison, that is absolutely brilliant, and it's a beauty. Jamie Vardy again for Leicester City. He's up and running. What a fantastic goal!
Touch, back of the net.
Come on. What a delightful goal that is for Jamie Vardy.
All the games, all the goals, and all the big moments. You're listening to LCFC Radio.
It's a warm welcome to King Power Stadium on a bitterly cold December afternoon in Leicestershire. The Blue Army spirits have been warmed on arrival by the free mince pies laid on by the club and the Christmas hat that was awaiting them on their seats. Blue, of course, as we know, Father Christmas is a Leicester City fan. Second top takes on second bottom in the Premier League in front of another sellout crowd here at King Power Stadium as the Foxes take on the Canaries. For Brendan Rodgers' high-flying Foxes, it seems every week another record is broken, and that will be no different this week. A Foxes win would equal a club record winning streak of 10 games in all competitions. That was back in 1963. Leicester City have won their last 7 at home and just 1 defeat in their last 14 on their own turf. Daniel Farke's Norwich City arrive in Leicester on the back of successive defeats, which has equalled their worst start to a top-flight season. They've lost just twice away from home last season on their way to the Championship title, but have lost 7 of their 9 away matches in all competitions this season, failing to score in 6 of those games. Team news for the Foxes was very straightforward for Brendan Rodgers. It's the same 11 that took the field last weekend in the Midlands against Aston Villa. It means that Kelechi Iheanacho starts. He scored in all 4 games he's taken part in this season. It's his first Premier League home start at King Power Stadium for 12 months. He's partnering Jamie Vardy, looking to score in 9 successive Premier League games. He's also 4 short of 100 in the Premier League. James Maddison comes up against his former club. Schmeichel in goal, a back 4, Ricardo, Evans, Soyuncu and Chilwell. A diamond midfield with Ndidi in front of the back 4, Pratt and Tillemans ahead of him, and Maddison just behind Vardy and Iheanacho. Norwich make 2 changes following a 2-1 home defeat to Sheffield United. Mario Vrancic and Onel Hernandez drop to the bench, replaced by Tom Tribal and Tom Cantwell. Krul is the goalkeeper, back 4, Aaron Zimmerman, Godfrey and Byram. Tettey in front of the back 4, Cantwell, Tribal, McLean and Buendia looking to support the lone striker, Pukki. It is a sellout at King Power Stadium. The tickets are becoming hot once again as Leicester's current form having them sitting high up in the Premier League table, and Matt Elliott alongside us this afternoon. Once again, that everyone arriving at King Power Stadium in Leicester City blue feeling very, very confident.
Well, rightly so. The way the run's been going, the way the performances have been, and the results, etc. The quality of play as well, and it's hard to see beyond a Leicester City victory, isn't it? But Norwich will try and have something to say about that for sure. Big emphasis on their 2 centre halves today. I mean, ordinarily the fullbacks of Norwich like to push forward, like to be adventurous. They do so at their peril today, don't they? Because the 2 centre halves are going to be fully occupied. Won't come up against 2 out-and-out strikers very often, as they will today, with the added threat of Maddison in behind. And that's going to be the key area.
As Matt mentioned in the build-up, the atmosphere really building at King Power Stadium. We've just had a montage of images before a loud bang, and that got the crowd going. Once again, a huge roar as the Norwich City players disembark from a huddle. The Norwich fans, who are packed out the far corner, raise their voices and cheer their team on ahead of kick-off here at King Power Stadium. Away from football, it's been red versus blue all week. On the field today, it's blue against yellow, both teams in their traditional colours.